I was just 24 years old when I married George. We met at a church social in 1975, when I was still figuring out who I wanted to be. He was charming, with a crooked smile and a way of making everyone feel special. I was working as a teacher then, saving up for my own apartment. George worked at a local mechanic shop and had dreams of opening his own garage one day. Within a year, we were married. It was a simple wedding, white dress, small chapel, a cake that my sister baked. We couldn't afford much, but we were in love. Or at least I thought we were. We moved into a tiny house on the east side of town. It had one bedroom, a creaky porch, and a garden out back that I tended with joy. Over the years, we had 3 children, Emma, Joseph, and Claire. I gave up my job to raise them while George worked long hours. I didn't mind. I believed in our family. I believed in him. We built a life of routines. Sunday morning church, Friday night family dinners, birthdays filled with laughter and homemade decorations. George always said he wanted to give us a life better than he had growing up. I believed he was trying. Maybe he was. But life has a way of testing love, and ours was no exception. By the time we hit our 60s, the children were grown and out of the house. I started noticing small changes. George was quieter, more distant. He didn't laugh as easily. He spent more time on his phone, a device he used to mock me for using. He began working late even though he had already retired. When I asked where he was going, he'd brush me off. Out with the guys, he'd say. But I never heard names, never saw anyone call or visit. Our Friday night dinners turned into microwaved leftovers while I sat alone in the kitchen. Then one night, something happened that shattered my sense of normalcy. We were watching a movie, and I asked him a simple question. He turned and said, "Diane, can you get me a drink? My name is Margaret." That name haunted me for weeks. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a slip of the tongue. Maybe he was tired. But deep down, I knew. He was slipping away from me. The man who used to write me love notes now barely looked me in the eyes. I began to notice other things. His cologne smelled different, newer. He bought new clothes, even dyed his gray hair. One day I found a receipt for a dinner for 2 at a fancy restaurant in a part of town we never visited. I asked him about it. He said it was a mistake, a business dinner with a former colleague. But his eyes didn't meet mine. I didn't believe him, but I stayed silent. Then came the night I followed him. I borrowed Emma's car and drove across town, my hands shaking on the wheel. I parked across from a quaint little cafe and saw him through the window. Laughing. Holding hands. Touching her cheek. She was young. Pretty. Confident. Everything I had once been. I waited a few days before confronting him. I needed strength. I needed clarity. One morning, while he was in the shower, I looked through his phone. The messages were there. Dozens of them. I miss you already. Last night was amazing. When can I see you again, Diane? My heart felt like it had been ripped open. I took screenshots, printed them out, and placed them on the kitchen table. When he came down for coffee, he saw them. He didn't even look surprised. "You went through my phone?" he asked, more annoyed than guilty. I asked him if he loved her. He said nothing for a long time. Then he whispered, "Yes." I stared at him, hoping for some sign of remorse. But there was none. Just silence and the hum of the refrigerator. I cried for weeks. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. Our children were furious. Emma stopped speaking to him entirely. Joseph told him he was no longer welcome in his home. Claire, always the peacekeeper, tried to mediate but gave up when she saw the pain in my eyes. He moved out a month later. I didn't stop him. I packed his things, folded his shirts, and handed him the suitcase. He didn't even say goodbye properly. Just walked away, like 40 years meant nothing. The house was too quiet after he left. I would hear a creak in the hallway and think it was him. I'd set 2 plates for dinner, then remember. I avoided our bedroom and slept on the couch for weeks. Every corner of our home reminded me of him. I found myself staring at old photo albums, reliving our vacations, holidays, the births of our children. I questioned everything. Was it all a lie? The loneliness was unbearable at first. But slowly, I began to reclaim myself. I joined a walking group at the community center. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I painted sunsets, flowers, even portraits of my grandchildren. My granddaughter Lily moved in with me while she attended nursing school. Her laughter filled the house. She helped me set up a social media account. I posted photos of my garden and little snippets of my journey. People started following me. Women messaged saying they, too, had been betrayed. We shared stories. We cried together. I took a class at the community college, creative writing for seniors. I wrote about my pain, my hope, my healing. My instructor encouraged me to publish my work. I began writing a memoir. 1 year later, I stood in front of a group of women at a support circle, telling my story. I looked around and saw faces full of empathy, pain, and courage. I wasn't alone. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping others navigate heartbreak and betrayal. Every time I listened, I healed a little more. Every time I shared, I took back a piece of myself. George tried to reach out. He sent a letter. It said he had made a mistake. That Diane had left him. That he was alone. I didn't reply. Some doors are meant to stay closed. I began traveling, exploring places I had only dreamed of. I danced at my grandson's wedding, hiked trails in the Rockies, even went skydiving for my 70th birthday. Life was no longer something I endured. It was something I embraced. 2 years after the divorce, I finally forgave him. Not for his sake, but for mine. Forgiveness is not about letting someone back into your life. It's about freeing yourself from their grip. I forgave him so I could fully live again. I traveled to Italy with a friend. I saw the Colosseum, ate gelato by the river, and laughed like I hadn't in decades. I realized that life doesn't end at betrayal. Sometimes, it truly begins there. Back home, I turned my memoir into a published book. I called it The Bloom After Winter. It resonated with many women. Some wrote letters. Others sent emails. One woman told me my story saved her life. If you are facing the pain of betrayal or heartbreak, remember this: you are not alone, and your story doesn't end here. What feels like the end right now is often the beginning of something more powerful: your healing, your rediscovery, your strength. You may have been broken, but from the cracks, light pours in. Take one step at a time, breathe, and believe you are worthy of love, joy, and a future that honors your heart. Keep going. The best chapters of your life may still be ahead.